This video is brought to you by Roll for Combat and the RPG Superstar Contest. Create up to 3 of your own Pathfinder 2nd Edition monsters for a chance at winning several prizes, including the publication of your creations in an upcoming Battle Zoo bestiary. Enter now at rpgsuperstar.com. Hey everybody, Dave here with another Pathfinder rule reminder for you. And today's question is, can an invisible creature grant flanking to an ally? And the brief answer to that by raw is yes, or probably so. But this is one of those areas where, in my opinion, my belief is that the designers intend for GMs to look at this and make rulings on the fly for whatever makes most sense at their game table and within the narrative that they're crafting with their players. And if that means that it doesn't make sense, then they probably would not grant flanking to that invisible creature. So let's talk about what's happening here. So you have you've got 2 players. One of them has cast invisibility on themselves, and they move adjacent to an enemy, and you have another player who is also adjacent to that enemy on the opposite sides. So normally that would grant flanking, especially if both characters were visible and one of them wasn't invisible. But the whole philosophy behind flanking is that an enemy, if they have an enemy on either sides of them, then their attention is divided. They're distracted. They're having to constantly turn back and forth to keep their guard up against both of their enemies, and in doing so, that creates small opportunities for one of them to strike, and that is what grants the -2 penalty to that flanked creature's arming class, what imposes the flat-footed condition upon them. So the question is, if one of those people is invisible, or even more to the point, if one of those 2 players has the undetected condition for any reason, then that monster doesn't know that they're standing there. And if they don't know that there is an enemy standing behind them, why would their attention be divided and therefore grant flanking to the one enemy they can see? And like I said, by a strict rules as written, that creature would be flanked. And if you look at the explanation and criteria for flanking, it says that a creature is flanked when they have an enemy on both sides of them or across both corners of their space. And it says, additionally, both you and the ally have to be able to act, must be wielding melee weapons, or able to make an unarmed attack, can't be under any effects that prevent you from attacking, and must have the enemy within reach. So there's nothing there that says anything about degrees of perception, that the flanked creature must know that both of those enemies are there. It's just simply, if you're standing in those opposite spaces and you're able to make attacks and the flanked creature is within reach, then that creature is flat-footed. But again, GMs are empowered to say, well, you know what, this doesn't make sense to me, so I'm not going to grant flanking because one of those characters is unnoticed. Now, a couple of other things to keep in mind is first, just because a creature is invisible does not necessarily mean that they are also undetected. If, for example, if a player casts invisibility on themselves and they move into flanking position behind an enemy, if that invisible player did not use stealth to quietly sneak into that position, the GM is absolutely within their right to say that the flanked enemy heard you coming. And they may not be able to see you standing behind them, but they know something is there. So you now have the hidden condition, and I think hidden would certainly be grounds for granting flanking, because the enemy knows somebody is in that space, or there's something to be concerned about in that space. And another thing to consider is that even though the game is structured in turns and rounds, and actions are dictated in a very linear fashion, everything within the narrative is supposed to be happening simultaneously or near simultaneously. So if you have an enemy that's being flanked by an invisible player and a visible player, and that visible player goes first in initiative, the invisible player's actions, even though they occur later in the turn structure in the round, whatever they do is happening simultaneously. So if that character is committed to taking an action that would reveal their presence, such as attacking this enemy, then the GM might rule, okay, well, you're committed to doing something that's going to reveal your presence, therefore I'm going to grant flanking to the visible player. Now, what might be an easier solution in that situation would just be if the visible player delays their turn until after the invisible player, let the invisible player take their action that would reveal their presence and grant flanking to them, and then take their action. So that's my take on this situation, and I know it's been debated on forums and in YouTube comments for a while now. By raw, it seems to me that an invisible character or any character with the unnoticed condition would grant flanking to an ally. There's nothing within flanking that has anything to do within the rules that has to do with awareness and perception. But this is absolutely within the realm of a GM to make a ruling differently based on what they believe is best for their game and the story that's being told at their table. As always, please leave your questions in the comments. Also, make sure you leave your suggestions for future rule reminders there as well. I'll leave links to all of my other videos that deal with flanking and perception and invisibility and all of that in the description of this video. And as always, thank you very much for your support. Thank you for liking these videos, for subscribing to the channel, sharing the videos with your friends, subscribing to the Patreon. I really appreciate everything the community does to support me. And with that, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.